known female character and the half corpse from Return of the Living Dead. I guess. Hey, all right, here we go. There she is. Now, this is a poster that I need in my room. It's a poster that I wish I had growing up in my room. It's one of the greatest promotional posters ever taken. There she is, Melinda Clarke. Be still, my beating heart. Another one of my forever loves after Nev Campbell. Nev Campbell is my number one forever love. Melinda Clarke in this role, one of just a role that she looks back fondly on to some extent. And, I heard her commentary for Return of the Living Dead 3, which I have for the Vestron release. And I look at that. Look at the full moon behind her with the red, with the trees. It's just the greatest promotional picture ever. They must have taken this on the day that they did that makeup. But yes, I love this poster to death. I'll never forget the first time I saw this image. I was in, all right, ready for this? Small personal story. I was in a video store in a King Soopers, whatever that, in Denver, Colorado. I was staying at my grandparents' house. We were renting videos. This had to be 1996 or 1997. And I remember that's how I discovered that they made a part 3 to Return of the Living Dead. And I remember my jaw hanging open. I can still remember it. I can remember seeing this image as clear as day and going, oh my God, there's a third movie for Return of the Living Dead. And I thought, I guess it did have a theatrical release, but it was a very small one. I always thought it was a direct-to-video sequel. And that golden age of Vestron video in the early 90s was just something about that. You had Cyborg 2. You had, what was that movie? Free Fall with Eric Roberts. Leprechaun 2. Stuff like that. Brain Smasher, A Love Story. All these trailers played before the VHS, and they're ingrained in my brain. When I think about Return of the Living Dead Part 3, and I pop in the unrated version, because the thing about this film, and the thing that is key to remember about Return of the Living Dead Part 3, is you need to watch the unrated version. The rated R version, which only came out on DVD, it was never released unrated on DVD in America. You could only get that region 2. It was unrated on VHS, which I had to special order from Amazon at the time. I ordered it in 2001, 2002. That's how much. And at that time, I was not special ordering VHS tapes in 2002. Again, this is right as the VHS age is declining, but so badly did I have to own the unrated version of Return of the Living Dead Part 3 that I found myself braving the Amazon waters for one of the first times. Remember, this is at the dawn of the internet, where you could order media and have it sent to your house. I guess you could do that in the 90s, but it was not very common. Media, VHS, DVD, whatever, media came to you by way of comic book store, Borders Books, Barnes & Noble, FYE, Sam Goody, video stores. You didn't get your media from the internet. You did not. This is pre-YouTube. This is how you got this stuff. I still have this tape. It's in the basement. I also have the very first. So the other thing I want to say about this, and I guess this is my personal history with Return of the Living Dead. I just told you about how I first discovered it. It would be many years later before I finally saw this film. So I probably saw that in 1997. I want to say it was 97, right? The VHS box. Downtown White Plains, Music Plus Movies, RIP, that horror section was one of my horror sections growing up. That's where I grew up discovering all sorts of wonderful films. So many Fridays and Saturdays spent in that horror section, just looking at all the VHS box art, memories that I will cherish for the rest of my life to the day I die, truly. That's how much that means to me, especially looking back on it now, like all these years later, just like waxing poetic about that wonderful time of discovery in my adolescent years. And I came upon a copy of Return of the Living Dead Part 3. Back in the day, you'd get a VHS box. The VHS would be cut to crap. They put it in the plastic case, and you'd insert the thing, and that's how you would rent the thing, and that's how the cardboard box would survive inside the plastic case, right? And there are a variety of them. There are the ones that you squeeze at the bottom and the cassette would fall out. There were ones where they just opened up. Those were the main ones. Those are the ones they had at Music Plus Movies in downtown White Plains. And so finally, at the tender age of 15 years old, in 2001, I finally got a chance to sit down and watch Return of the Living Dead Part 3. I had seen Part 1 millions of times. I talked about my history with Part 1 in another episode. I had seen Part 2. And mind you, I was younger when I saw Part 2, and I remember finally being brave enough to rent it on VHS. And I remember having the remote control and doing, yes, as Rue says, it's the age of be kind, rewind, for sure, man. That you have the pause button, right? You could sort of do freeze frame. And I remember having to freeze frame on the Tarman because I was thinking about the Tarman from the first Return of the Living Dead. And I was so scared to see the Tarman from the second Return of the Living Dead that I had to freeze frame as he panned up into the screen for the first time. So, and now here I am at Part 3, and I'm like ready. And it's just the Romero zombie films never had that effect on me. They never terrified me the way that the Return of the Living Dead films did. And so here I am. I rent it. I bring it home. It's the summer of 2001. I pop it in. I watch it during the day. I watch the film. Spoilers, everybody. I'm watching the film. And the film is having some sort of effect on me that I can't explain. And I'm almost embarrassed that I'm even having these feelings, whatever this effect is on me, because I'm just so blown away by what I'm seeing, and I knew that it was directed by Brian Yuzna, written by John Penny. John Penny was the assistant editor on the first Return of the Living Dead. They got together, they made this. We're going to read more about that in a minute. But I was familiar with, I think I hadn't seen Society yet, which is Brian Yuzna's first film. I hadn't seen Beyond Reanimator yet. Or no, I hadn't even seen Reanimator yet, I don't think. I think this is really my first exposure to Brian Yuzna's work. So I'm watching this film, and I'm just like, I am rooting. The entire time I am rooting for Curt and Julie to make it out of this life. It's funny how this movie was made in 1992, and the main character's name is Curt, and they're traveling up to Seattle to get involved with, the music scene. Kurt's going to be a drummer, and Julie's going to party all night. That's their teenage pipe dream fantasy of what they're going to do when they get up to Seattle, and everything's going to be all right. Just ignoring the very real world situation, which is not a real world situation at all, in the sense that we're talking about a person being reanimated as a zombie. I feel stupid saying that at the age of 35. It's been 20 years for me in this movie, my relationship with this film. And so I know it's been longer for others. So I'm watching the film and I get to that ending and I'm like, my jaw, the last 10 minutes of the film, my jaw drops open. I'm just sitting there. My brow is furrowed. My eyes are glued to the screen as I watch them crawl into an incinerator and burn to a crisp. As the ending credits roll, and then dun, 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 dun. And I am just like, what in the F-U-C-K did I just watch? What did I just watch? I couldn't believe it. It was a gut punch. I didn't stop thinking about it for the rest of the day. I didn't stop thinking about it for the rest of the week. I was like, you can't kill the characters that way. The characters can't die. And mind you, I already know what happens in Return of the Living Dead. But for some reason, I'm like, they're in love and they're young. And they gotta overcome these odds, and they don't. And the movie just ends. It's one of the bleakest, most nihilistic endings to any film I've ever seen in my life. And again, I'm like, how is this the third film in a franchise that at the time I thought might have been direct to video. I'm like, how does this have such a deep impact on me? Why do I feel the way that I feel about this? And I don't know, but I had to see it again and again and again and again. And I ordered the cassette tape and I'd watch it. And then Music Plus Movies went out of business and they were selling all their VHS tapes. And I went in there and I rescued a couple that they had left. Including the tape that I saw this film the first time on, that tape, that very tape. It's now in my collection. It's downstairs in the basement of my house right here. I'll probably never watch it again, but that tape, I have a 20-year history with that tape. It means so much to me as for sentimental reasons. And ever since that movie has just had this effect on me. And to hear that there might have been a sequel to this story, like, blows my mind. I hate that it's called Return of the Living Dead Part 3. I want it to just be called Curt and Julie. That's how I like to think of it. I don't think of it as Return of the Living Dead Part 3. It just doesn't. I hate that it's the third one in a series. It shouldn't. It's a standalone film. Yes, it's connected to the 2,4,5 trioxin stuff. Yes, they mentioned the Darrow Chemical Company. I would just like to think that maybe in this world, in the same way that Night of the Living Dead is a movie in Return of the Living Dead, perhaps Return of the Living Dead is a movie in Return of the Living Dead Part 3, based on a true story, which is based on a true story. You know what I'm saying? Let's get meta on top of meta with it, and that this is the real to real life. But Melinda Clarke is breathtaking in this role. When I revisited it now, I'm like, sort of just like, I just sort of roll my eyes at some of the acting. Some of the scenes are so goofy and over the top. But mind you, as a 15-year-old kid, I was bought hook, line, and sinker. And so I'll always approach it from that place. I mean, it brings such a welling of emotion when I get to that ending, especially now. I look at it I look at this as a movie. It's a movie about addiction is what it is. I wrote a whole thing actually about it. I'll have to dig it up. I'm not going to do it this episode. I'll do it next episode now that I've talked about it. I wrote a letterbox review for this film. The last time I watched it was in March when I was working on my second feature, Romeo Wash Away, which is not happening anymore. Unfortunately, we shot about 20% of the movie, but I was watching the Return of the Living Dead films. I don't know why. I was just watching them while I was making props. And I wrote this whole review that really, I think, summed up how I feel about Return of the Living Dead Part 3. So I'll save that for the next episode of this. I just wanted to take a moment to talk about the significance of Return of the Living Dead 3, how the significance for Return of the Living Dead 3 is different than the significance for Return of the Living Dead Part 1 for me, and what it means for my history, and how she may not be the ultimate scream queen, which is Neve Campbell, my forever love, but she is the ultimate monster for me, probably. One of them. I mean, just a brain eating, and why didn't this become a comic book? Her like that as with her human boyfriend, God, that would have made such a great comic book. In any case, I'm going to digress now because we have to move on.